Did the shooter bring a video camera into the Broad Arrow Cafe to record the massacre of the civilians inside that establishment? And if they did, what happened to that tape? The shooter had entered the Broad Arrow Cafe. He was carrying the Prince sports bag, which contained the firearms, and also there were reports that he was carrying a video camera. You'd ought to imagine that if somebody recorded the shooting that took place in there, it would comprehensively 100% determine the identity of the gunman. And yet that tape has never seen the light of day or a court of law. Welcome to the Wasp Files. Some of this material may be distressing, and viewer discretion is advised. During the many years that I've investigated the Port Arthur Massacre, there are more questions than there are answers, particularly in relation to missing pieces of crucial evidence. One of these that really stands out, and in many ways has been sort of glossed over or brushed under the carpet, is the reports that the shooter had entered the Broad Arrow Cafe. He was carrying the Prince sports bag, which contained the firearms, and also there were reports that he was carrying a video camera. The shooter had entered the Broad Arrow Cafe, ordered a meal from the servery, and then struggled to get out through the door onto the balcony. One of the patrons actually held the door for him. He ate his meal on the balcony, came back into the cafe, where he withdrew the rifle and opened fire on the patrons. However, there is also reports that the shooter had set up a video camera on the same table where that gun bag was later abandoned. The police themselves confirmed this when Martin Bryant was interviewed by Inspectors Warren and Payne. They stated that they believed that he had entered the cafe with the gun bag that was over there, meaning the Prince sports gun bag, and also his video camera. Many, many months later, a police training video that was put together by the Tasmanian police was inadvertently leaked to the public. It was meant to be police eyes only. It was a training video which basically looked at the overall investigation into the Port Arthur Massacre, the crime, the response by the police. There were interviews with some of the witnesses. But then later on in the video, there was some very distressing footage that was taken by the police where they videoed the interior of the Broad Arrow Cafe. This included some very upsetting images of the deceased victims still in the positions in which they'd been killed. As the video pans across the interior of the Broad Arrow Cafe, we can see on the table where the abandoned Prince sports bag is left, the gun bag. Very clearly next to it is a black video camera. Now, Nitram, the film that was made, in essence portraying Martin Bryant as the sole perpetrator of the killer, in the final scenes of that movie, even they portrayed a scene where Martin Bryant goes into the cafe, places the gun bag on the table, takes out a video camera, sets it up, hits record, and then picks up the gun and walks out of frame. And that was the end of the film. So the crucial question that needs to be asked is, did the shooter bring a video camera into the Broad Arrow Cafe to record the massacre of the civilians inside that establishment? And if they did, what happened to that tape? You'd ought to imagine that if somebody recorded the shooting that took place in there, it would comprehensively 100% determine the identity of the gunman. There's only one problem with all this evidence. The tape has never seen the light of day, nor has any evidence about the ownership of that video camera, whether Martin owned a video camera, though the police confirmed that he did, and whether that was the video camera that was seen in the footage that was leaked, the police training footage. Now that tape, amongst Everything else, including the DNA and the fingerprints and the ballistics, which should have been taken from the Broad Arrow Cafe, would once again comprehensively determine the guilt of the shooter. And yet that tape has never seen the light of day or a court of law. So the question has to be asked, where is the tape? Where is the camera? There were reports that the camera case itself was located in the abandoned Volvo when it was left at the toll booth after the shooting that took place there. But the camera is clearly visible on the police training video when they pan across the interior of the Broad Arrow Cafe. That is evidence that the authorities could comprehensively end any controversy or debate with by simply saying we have video footage of Martin Bryant in the cafe because he filmed himself. And yet that hasn't been discussed, there has been no determinations on that, and there certainly hasn't been any release of the video that would show that Martin Bryant was there. We know that the abandoned gun bag that was in the Broad Arrow Cafe was a Prince sports bag, a tennis bag if you like. There was also verified reports that Martin Bryant had attended a shopping centre with his girlfriend Petra Wilmot and purchased the Prince sports bag and was apparently seen measuring its length. Ostensibly this bag was used to transport the rifle inside the Broad Arrow Cafe. This bag was left abandoned on the table, and within that bag was a combat knife that was wrapped in a bloodied towel. Damien Bugg, who was the chief prosecutor, said that the DNA on the blood on the knife was consistent with that of David Martin. Now that in itself is an inconclusive statement because DNA is not something that's inconsistent or consistent. It either is or it isn't. It's, of course, convenient that the shooter had left evidence that he had killed David Martin by leaving behind in the gun bag a bloodied knife wrapped in a towel, which was later recovered. The other unusual aspect is that witnesses stated that when the gunman had exited the Broad Arrow Cafe, he was carrying another large bag. Now, there were reports that a shotgun was fired inside the Broad Arrow Cafe, though Gerard Dutton did not include this in his ballistics report, and that later the Daewoo semi-automatic shotgun was found in the boot of the Volvo when it was abandoned at the toll booth. That ostensibly means that perhaps there was another gun bag that was containing potentially the Daewoo 12-gauge shotgun, but this is, of course, once again yet to be determined. So the question is, how many bags were there, and why would the shooter exit the cafe with the one bag and just leave the other behind? These are all unanswered questions that point the finger to the fact that we do not have the answers to some very crucial questions. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Wasp Files. Feel free to share far and wide and see the attached files in support of the episode. Thank you.